compound can result in increased levels of microsomal cytochrome P450 enzyme. An enzyme that acts on this compound is believed to have developed from a glutathione-dependent enzyme which acts on formaldehyde. The method for testing for this substance relies on its ability to reduce dichromate to chromium 3. This compound is oxidized by an enzyme containing both a structural zinc atom and an active site zinc. An arginine to histidine mutation in the enzyme that metabolizes this compound causes it to be metabolized toxic acetyl.
Ethanol?
Correct. The success of this campaign was aided by the death of theorist Mikhail Tukajevsky 4 years earlier. The 10 points each identified this military campaign that broke the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. The success of this campaign enabled one side to starve a lot of Slavs in their hunger plans.
Operation Barbarossa.
Correct. The Red Army was weakened before Hitler's invasion by the purges ordered by this paranoid leader, the successor to Lenin.
Stalin, yeah.
Correct. This person led Stalin's NKVD secret police for almost all of World War II, implementing atrocities like the Katyn Forest massacre. This Georgian supposedly ran to kiss Stalin's hand when Stalin was bedridden and was killed when Khrushchev came to power. Incorrect, Beria.
Yeah, but he also was like a leader. So it's like 40 years.
Toss-up 2. This city's idealization by historians was evaluated in a Francois Ollier book about this city's mirage. The city dealt with the manpower shortage by allowing mophakes and periopoi to join its army. Aristotle attributes the city's decline to the fact that it allowed women to own property. The city was defeated in one battle by an enemy that created a 50-man power. A foundational book in the mathematical application of this discipline was written by Auguste de Morgan. For 10 points each, identify this philosophical discipline, the systematic study of the reasoning of arguments and their validity. Answer?
Rational.
Incorrect. Logic. This group of early 20th century philosophers were the primary promoters of logical positivism, also known as verificationism, which argues that statements must be rooted on pure deductive logic or evidence. Answer? Vienna Circle. This author of General Theory of Knowledge organized the intellectuals that became the Vienna Circle. He corresponded with Einstein after publishing a 1915 paper on the philosophical implications of relativity. Answer?
Johnson.
Incorrect. Schlick. Toss-up number 3. While accompanied by 400 slaves, this man refuses a gift of several heads, despite the giver insisting that seeing this man again is like seeing the face of God. This man takes 2 wives of the tight descent named Bashemeth and Judith. While this man is absent, his mother takes his clothes and gives them to a son who fears that his blind father will feel smooth skin. This man's wrath promotes another man to flee, to work for Uncle Laban. The distinguishing characteristics of this hunter and man of the field include his red hair and hairy chest. In exchange for a bowl of lentil soup, the progenitor of the Edomites sells his birthright to his younger brother, who later...
Jacob?
Incorrect. Uso.
Yeah, you have to wait for him, sorry. Yeah, should I just tell, what do you know what you're supposed to do?
Is there a tiebreaker?
Is there another 21 question for the second? Alternatively, what if I'm just giving them points for doing the bonus? It'll save time.
Huh?
You can give them points for doing the bonus.
You should just do my tosses only then. If they just ask.
Should we just, we don't have extra positives with those.
Is that extra?
No, it's not.
Someone just add 1 set point and then just give bonus.
Give Phoenix 10 points.
Okay.
Yeah, give me 10 points and then you can read the bonus. Assuming you have a question.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay, so I'll trade paper the bonus.
Okay. Answer the following about Greek myths set in remote parts of the world. For 10 points each, after the Trojan War, Menelaus was stranded in Egypt until he wrestles this shape-shifting sea god and forces out of him directions back to Sparta.
Ryan.
Incorrect, Proteus. A distant region in Africa or Asia may be elusive Mount Nisa, where Dionysus is fostered by these rain nymphs. After the brother is killed, these sisters weep so much that they turn into their namesake stars. Answer? Incorrect, Pleiades. After the gods overthrow Cronus, this titan is condemned to spend eternity at the western end of Earth as he holds up the heavens. Correct, Tennis. Toss-up 4. This fictional character writes a preface comparing himself to his cousin William St. Pierre and complaining about being forced to praise Queen Anne over his real master. This character describes projects like turning human feces back into food that are undertaken by projectors at the Academy of Legato. This man becomes
Let me look over.
power. In a 17th century supplement to this novel, the main characters are subjected to bizarre dreams by a spirit whose name translates roughly to the fish spirit of sexual desire. For 10 points each, in this Chinese novel about a motley trio who accompanied the monk Tong Sung-rong on the title expedition.
Journey to the west.
Correct. In Journey to the West, Sun Wukong is given his magical shape-changing staff by the king of the Eastern Sea, who is one of these creatures. Tong Sung-rong rides a white horse, who is also one of these creatures.
Dragon.
Correct. The aforementioned spin-off is based on an episode where Sun Wukong turns into a fly and enters a demon's body to beat her up, so that she will give up one of these items, which allows the group to pass Flaming Mountain. Answer?
Shield.
Incorrect again. That's fine. Toss-up number 5. An opera set in this country begins with the narrator apologizing for its lack of any recitatives. A composer from this country wrote an opera in which a sorceress summons a deceitful spirit disguised as Mercury. Johann Christoph Pepusch composed the music for a ballad opera from this country that was adapted into Kurt Weill's The Threepenny Opera. A composer who worked in this country wrote the aria Ombre mai fu. In an opera from this country, the soprano lead asks for the tie hand Belinda and says, correct. The active telomerase of these cells makes them effectively immortal. For 10 points each, name these cells whose constant dividing forms tumors which can cause complications if they metastasize.
Cancer cells?
Correct. Mechanisms to stop the formation of cancer cells include the activity of this tumor suppressor gene, known as the guardian angel of the genome. Despite its name, it in fact only has a mass of 43.7 kilodaltons. Correct. One of the rare forms of cancer, sarcomas, form in tissues derived from these sorts of cells, which can develop into cells of the lymphatic system, circulatory system, and form connective tissue. When epithelial cells lose their polarity and adhesion, they can become a type of stem cell described by the same word. Answer?
Bridal?
Incorrect. Mesenchymal.
Oh, mesenchymal, because that makes sense, okay. No, I can't also put them.
Toss-up 6. In government and binding theory, these words are contrasted with our expressions in group-like anaphors. In Arabic, it's increasingly rare to use dual-form examples of these words like kuma and antuma. The use of different examples of these words in different social situations is referred to as the TV distinction. Standard examples of these words in Japanese such as ore, atashi, and watashi. Correct. This composer's E minor vocalise begins with a quick G F sharp G sung by the wordless solo soprano. For 10 points each, name this composer whose symphony number 2 is also in E minor. That symphony heavily quotes the Dies Irae in its second movement, but is best known for the lush violin theme in its third movement, Adagio. Answer? From the New World, the composer's E minor symphony number 9 was influenced by the African American and Native American music he heard while vacationing in the United States.
One job.
Correct. The key of E minor has this combination of accidentals in its signature, the same as its relative key G major.
E minor.
Incorrect. I sharp.
Yeah, one sharp.
E minor is the key. Toss-up 7. George Sheldrick created the SHE-IX programs for use in this technique. Those programs include algorithms for direct methods and charge flipping. Analysis of structure factors can predict the systematic absences in this technique that result from geometries containing screw axes or glide planes. Peaks in this technique correspond to planes defined by the vectors h, k, and l. Common sources of radiation for this technique include K-alpha emissions from copper or molybdenum tubes. This technique works because the incident radiation has wavelengths similar to atomic spacings which serve as a grating. This technique whose peaks must satisfy Bragg's law.
X-ray crystallography.
Correct. A group of Irish people was settled in one of these two countries, rated the other in the Fenian rates. For 10 points each, name these two countries that also experienced a border controversy over the San Juan Islands, which almost erupted into a war after the shooting of a pig.
U.S. and Canada.
Correct. The Treaty of Washington, which did not provide compensation for the Fenians, was a disappointment for this first Prime Minister of Canada, who later lost office for accepting bribes from the builders of the Pacific Railway.
McDonald.
Correct. This Canadian Prime Minister was shaken by the lapels and told, "Don't you come into my living room and piss on my rug," by Lyndon Johnson, after calling for the U.S. to pause aerial bombing of North Vietnam. He also eliminated car tariffs with the U.S. in the Audit Act. Answer?
Schumacher.
Incorrect. Pearson.
That's what Pearson. Of course, I can't remember. Yeah, he's a complicated politics person.
Toss-up 8. A poem in this collection describes how the speaker's words grow thin as the tracks of the gulls, and that the speaker makes these words into an endless necklace. The speaker of the poem in this collection marks an atlas with crosses of fire and describes living between two motionless gondoliers. Another poem in this collection addresses a magnificent and piquant and magnetic slave of time. The speaker of a poem in this collection calls its addressee a pit of debris and repeats it is the hour of departure.
20 left home goes on to stare.
Correct.
The whole time, it's so much to read.
This country is often described as Africa in miniature because it has an incredibly diverse range of climates from the Sahel in its north region to the rainforests of the Sonago River. For 10 points each, name this non-Nigeria country, which controls the oil-rich Bakassi Peninsula along the Bight of Biafra.
And the Sahara. Cameroon.
Correct. Cameroon shares the same with one of these natural features known as the Mongo Mandemi in native languages. One in Indonesia named crocodile sank under the sea after causing havoc in 1883. Correct. Cameroon conducts most of its trade along this port city, which is larger than its capital of Yaoundé. It was called Cameronstadt back when it served as the capital of German Cameroon. Answer?
No.
Dawa.
What's that?
Dawa or Dula? Toss-up 9. This leader's forces sacked Volterra during a revolt over payment from their alum mine. He was saved from an assassination attempt by the writer Poliziano, after which he stayed with Ferdinand I of Naples. This leader invited a man who would be admired by the Piagnoni into his city and hanged Francesco Salviati for an attack implicitly endorsed by Pope Sixtus IV. His father nicknamed the Gouty and his son nicknamed the Unfortunate, were both named Piero. This patron of Pico de Marigola had a brother named Giuliano, who was killed in the Pazzi conspiracy in which he himself was wounded. He invited Savonarola to his city and was a patron of many artists, including Michelangelo. For 10 points, famous Florentine grandson of Cosimo de' Medici.
What I've done is it?
Yes, correct.
I had it. I think I know nothing less, I can't tell.
These entities were first introduced into literary theory by Mao Bokin, and they were codified in the mainstream by Northrop Frye's The Anatomy of Criticism. For 10 points each, identify these elements of the collective unconscious whose propagation in literature include the plucky but alone wave heroine, the catastrophic femme fatale, and the great mother.
Archetype?
Correct. Carl Jung developed his theory of archetypes after breaking from this psychoanalyst. Literary theory based on this psychoanalyst breaks personality down into the id, ego, and superego and search for the Oedipus complex. Correct. This archetypal character represents the underlying masculine personality traits found in women. This archetype clashes or dances in a similar underlying feminine personality in Jungian theory.
Masculine, female character. There's like an archetype, I don't really go for it, but
Answer.
the tomboy.
Incorrect. Animus.
And it's the That's it, we said. Oh, okay, just insult, I guess.
Toss up 10. Konstantin Savitsky added the animals to a painting of a morning inn, this kind of location by Ivan Shishkin. It is not a palace, but Camille Corot painted one of these locations at Fontainebleau and placed one at the left and another one just behind the title structure of his bridge at Narni. A black-skinned woman playing a clarinet-like instrument stares at the viewer in a painting set in one of these locations titled The Dream. The spooky abbey was painted by Caspar David Friedrich amidst one of these locations, which dominate the background and left side of John Constable's The Hay Way. Most
A farm?
incorrect. Most paintings by Henry Rousseau, such as The Snake Charmer, are set in this kind of location. For 10 points, Edward Manet's Luncheon on the Grass is set in a clearing in what kind of location?
Field?
Incorrect. Forest.
Forest, yeah. It's not tree farm. I mean, anyway, they have like cloud fields with sun.
So the score is 145 to 90.
140 what?
145 to 90.
Yeah. 140.
140.
No, no. Right.
Oh, did you get a net 5 on that one?
Just now.
Yeah, just now. I
And the
did.
one before was a
And number 3.
Number 3, okay.
Which one was that?
That was that one where she
I
actually.
did it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I didn't know, yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta be some math correctly. 15 zeros up to 5. I want that. So 90? Okay.
90 and was it 145?
Yeah, 140.
140.
11. A writer in this play learns
Wait,
that
did you guys need to sub, or are you good? Okay.
Coach back there for that.
Toss up
Young
11.
fellow.
A writer in this play learns that admirers think him as great a mystery as the man in the iron mask while reading a magazine aloud, making another jealous because no accolades of him were mentioned. A woman in this play gets over unrequited love by marrying a teacher who winds off his inadequate pay. Characters in this play often quote Hamlet like an actress who shows off by reading Gertrude's part and who reminisces about recording another character's experimental symbolist play before her failed career. This play became popular in 1898 after the Moscow Art Theater produced it under Konstantin Stanislavski. Masha and Medvedenko marry in this play, whose love triangle centers on Nina and writer. Correct. This mathematician names a set of functions that equal delta functions when acted on by linear differential operators, which are useful in solving inhomogeneous differential equations. For 10 points each, name this mathematician who also names the special case of the Kelvin-Stokes theorem in 2 dimensions. Answer?
Sure, Bolton?
Incorrect. Green.
Oh, green theorem.
The Kelvin-Stokes theorem may also been known as the theorem name for this quantity, which describes the rotation of a 3D vector field. It is often given as the del cross F.
So that means,
Incorrect, curl.
don't cross that.
Green's theorem and the curl operator are often encountered when studying this branch of mathematics, whose fundamental theorem relatives the antiderivative to an integral and vice versa.
Calculus.
Correct.
Sorry, I should have asked the little part. Sorry.
Toss at 12. At a UN-run conference in this country's capital, Hillary Clinton declared human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights. Nancy Pelosi proposed the 1992 act that allowed thousands of people from this country to become permanent residents. CIA Director George Tenet accepted blame for the U.S. bombing of this country's embassy in Belgrade in 1999.
Yugoslavia.
Incorrect.
Damn it.
A leader of this country wore a 10-gallon hat at a Texas rodeo on a 1979 diplomatic visit after the Carter administration normalized U.S. relations with this country. Bill Clinton controversially allowed this country to join the WKU. The week that changed the world occurred when another president visited this country in 1972. For 10 points in this country, many of whom dissidents immigrated to the United States following the 1989 massacre at Tiananmen Square. Correct. Andrew Jackson requested that this sculptor not idealize him in one of his busts. For 10 points each, name this American neoclassical sculptor who was inspired by stories of Turkish atrocities to create his best-known sculpture, the Greek slave. Answer? Incorrect. Huron Powers. This sculptor created a series of statues called the slaves, including the awakening slave and the bearded slave. His other sculptures included the famous Pieta in St. Peter's Basilica. Incorrect. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Granada is home to a monument to dead slaves created in this unusual location by Jason Taylor, who also created the sculpture museum in Cancun with this unusual property. Correct. Toss-up 13. A process of this type has a likelihood proportional to the cosecant of theta over 2 raised to the 4th power. A measure of the likelihood of one of these events occurring is equal to its attenuation over the number density of targets. The path of a particle undergoing this phenomenon is related to a parameter symbolized b, which is equivalent to the b parameter of the hyperbolic orbit. That parameter is the impact parameter. This sort of process has its likelihood quantified by the cross-section. The plum-pudding model was disproved in an experiment where alpha particles experienced the form of this phenomenon.
Scattering?
Correct. Name these plucky Brits with important dealings in Southeast Asia for 10 points each. This Prime Minister didn't go to Southeast Asia much, but he did appoint commanders like Joseph Stilwell and Lord Mountbatten to carry out British operations there during World War II. Correct. This woman accepted an offer from Consul Chan Kim Ching to become royal governess and teacher for the family of King Mongkut, or Rama IV of Siam. Her experience inspired the musical The King and I. Incorrect. Anna Leah Nolan. This Governor General of Bencoolen negotiated the Hussein of Johor to establish a trading post, where he subsequently appointed William Farquhar as first president. Answer? Raffles.
Oh, so for Raffles, okay.
Did you guys get to know?
Yeah, that's it. Food casino guy, right?
Toss-up 14. In February 2016, this politician said, "I will do my damn duty to solve a certain crisis after admitting I have no plan B as a backup to current policy." The hashtag "This Politician's Summer" began trending in July 2016 after a series of 4 terrorist attacks in this politician's home country, including an incident in which a foreigner murdered 5 people with an axe. Frustration over this world leader's apparent capitulation to foreigners and the left has fueled the rise of a party called Alternative for this leader.
Angela Merkel.
Correct. Raksha Bandhan for 10 points each. Raksha Bandhan celebrates the bonds between people with this relationship through the tying of a sacred Rakhi thread. Groups of them in Hinduism include the Kauravas.
Well, siblings.
Correct. The Purana name for this Hindu preserver deity contains many examples of Rakhi prayers that are used in Raksha Bandhan, such as the one done by Rashoda by Krishna, or by Rashoda for Krishna. Correct. Raksha Bandhan always falls during the occurrence of one of these events, known as Purnima. The traditional mid-autumn festival celebrated in China and Vietnam always occurs during one of these.
Yes. Full moon.
Correct. That's right.
One of them is before the.
Toss up 15. A substance that grants disability is quested after by a god who schemes to become a servant by tricking 9 other slaves into fighting to the death over a sharp whetstone. A god with this talent converses with a sea god and
Odin.
incorrect. A god with this talent converses with a sea god and text follows the Gao Faginin. A man skilled in this activity is born in the aftermath of the Assyrian War, when all of the gods gather together and spit into a cauldron, though he is later killed by 2 dwarfs. This activity is the primary talent of Vasir, as well as a god who is wedded to the goddess of eternal youth and golden apples, Idun. A mead that grants skill at it is stolen by Odin. Bragi personifies this activity, which was once used to write the Elder Edda, unlike the younger Prose Edda. For 10 points, name this genre of verse literature.
Poetry.
Correct. Along with the magnetizing field, this entity must be defined when separating the bound charge and current in Maxwell's equations. For 10 points each, name this vector field, which equals the vacuum permittivity times electric field plus the polarization density.
No answer.
It's displacement field. The time derivative of the D field or the displacement current was introduced by Maxwell to this equation, which relates the magnetic field around a loop to its current. Answer?
Long equation.
Incorrect. Ampere's law. The displacement current must be considered in circuits containing one of these charge shorting devices, a simple example of which consists of a pair of parallel plates separated by a dielectric. Correct. 10 points. Toss up 16. The book that introduced this concept described reality as developing through this concept self-alienation. Art, religion, and philosophy arise from the absolute version of this concept, which represents the reconciliation of its subjective and objective parts. This thing realizes its freedom through self-recognition in the process of pure looking at, and achieves its purpose through world historical figures like Napoleon. This thing's activity drives history according to the posthumous lectures on the philosophy of history. Its center process with this thing experiences Alpenbuch or sublation, which drives a process of thesis-antithesis synthesis called the dialectic. For 10 points, Geist is the German for what core concept of the philosophy of Hegel, whose most famous book is titled For the Phenomenology of
Spirit.
Correct.
That's what it goes.
Blurb for one of this author's poetry collections opens Often the Poet Strolled through Manhattan and describes typing poems that while never forgetting to eat his favorite meal. For 10 points each, name this New York School poet who wrote about a painting of oranges titled Sardines in Why I Am Not a Painter. This author included a poem about a mealtime conversation with Amiri Baraka in a collection of poems.
Like New York, like long New York.
Answer?
Pittsburgh.
Incorrect. Frank O'Hara. Frank O'Hara's most famous collection of poems is titled For This Meal. One of the foremost users of the cutout literary technique, William S. Burroughs, wrote a novel titled after a naked variety of this midday meal.
Lunch.
Correct. poem, Frank O'Hara described having poor weather before saying the phrase, Lana Turner has collapsed. In this medium, John Dos Passos included many instances of this medium in his USA trilogy and a precursor to the cutout technique. Answer?
Collage?
Incorrect, newspapers. That's 10. Toss-up 17. This scientist is the subject of the book The Aspiring Adept by Lawrence Princep. One work by this author is arranged as a dialogue between 5 friends, including the host Carneades and the judge Eleutherius. In another work, this thinker proposed a perpetual motion device called a self-flowing flask as a solution to the hydrostatic paradox. This author's most well-known treatise attacks both Paracelsus's three-principle theory and Aristotle's theory of the 4 elements in an attempt to address the doubts and paradoxes of its title subject. While he was investigating what he termed a spring of air, this author of this skeptical chemist concluded that pressure and volume...
Lavoisier?
Incorrect. This author of this skeptical chemist concluded that pressure and volume were inversely proportional for a gas. For 10 points, famous Anglo-Irish scientist whose namesake gas law keeps temperature constant.
One.
Correct. A boy who befriended Richard Pace warned colonists of a 1622 attack by this ruler's brother, Opechancanough, that massacred hundreds. Named this chief as namesake Algonquin Tribal Confederation in a modern-day Virginia that ruled the region of Senecomoco. Incorrect, Powhatan. Powhatan's confederacy made a temporary peace with Jamestown when the colonists kidnapped this daughter of his, who agreed to marry John Lowe. Correct. The 1622 massacre also restored part of this town, delaying Thomas Dale and the Virginia Company's efforts to build a college here. The modern-day county named for it surrounds Richmond with Chesterfield County. Answer? Incorrect, Enriquez. 7-10. A piece, toss-up 18. A piece in this genre is the last movement of Paul Hindemith's Symphonic Metamorphosis. An instrument designed specifically to perform these pieces is sometimes made of fiberglass and has a body that rests on the musician's left shoulder. A William Walton piece in this genre, written for the coronation of George VI, is the Crown Imperial. Concert-goers stump their feet during the performance of a piece in this genre by the elder Johann Strauss.
Waltz.
Incorrect, number 5. In this genre by the elder Johann Strauss, while an American king of these pieces wrote one such as Semper Fidelis. The sousaphone was invented to perform these pieces, since it coils around the wire to make it easy to walk in formation while playing pieces such as the Stars and Stripes Forever.
March.
Correct.
This is what we have to do software.
A poem about this animal is the chronologically first entry of a 1919 poetry anthology edited by Arthur Quiller Couch. For 10 points each, name this animal that is employed to sing in the 13th century Middle English round, titled Summer is Comin' In.
Skylark?
Incorrect. Summer is a Comin' In is the first entry in an Oxford published anthology titled For This Word. In that context, it refers to any type of poetry. This word preceded by blank refers to a poem in unrhymed iambic pentameter. Correct. This poem wrote about Oxford's dreaming spires in his poem Thyrsis, which memorializes his friend Arthur Hugh Clow. He also described an eternal note of sadness in Dover Beach. Correct. Toss-up 19. This good has been exported from around Lake Hot Bay since the 13th century. This good was exported from a major production center at Caduni by the Azalea trade route. The horses of Alexander the Great's army legendary were found the source of this good at Keura. easily deprotonated due to the stability of their corresponding anions.
So, question, like, same question, carboxylic acid?
Correct. Carboxylic acids tend to exist as dimeric pairs in solution linked through these interactions between the carbonyl and hydroxyl portions. They are responsible for the high boiling point of water.
Hydrogen bonds?
Correct. This dicarboxylic acid can be obtained from the anhydride used as a classic dienophile in the Diels-Alder reactions. The ionic form of this cis isomer of fumarate serves as an inhibitor of transaminase enzyme.
What's malonic acid? Malonic acid?
What'd you say?
Malonic acid?
Malonic acid.
Or
If
malonic?
it's malonic, it's not right. If it-
Yeah, that's correct. It's malate.
Oh, that's not
So
right.
we're wrong.
It says maleic acid, or
Maleic.
not maleic, or butene dioic
So
acid.
we're wrong.
Different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry, I think it was
I
malonic.
think that's one. Or, they got first two.
Yes.
Just, it was malonic.
Okay, toss up 20. This character swears off speculation after a cow he spends $10 on dies and he believes he has lost money on the stock market. This character was a five-center piece that he acquired after being ridden across the countryside by witches. When he finds out he's worth $800, this character wishes he could have that money so he wouldn't want no more. This character is painted blue and marked as the sick era by two men claiming to be a duke and dauphin. An attempt to free this character is cut short by Aunt Polly's.
Jim.
Correct.
Oh, I see. Sentence?
Yeah, last one. Kenneth Griffin bought this man's painting Interchange for a record $300 million in September 2015. For 10 points each, named Dutch American artist could utilize heavy impasto in a series of works that likely drew upon fertility dolls like the Venus of Willendorf. Answer, William de Kooning. De Kooning was an abstract expressionist, as was this man who Hans Mammoth photographed doing his characteristic action painting. Correct. Arshile Gorky helped bridge the gap between surrealism and abstract expressionism with works like this abstract painting, which shows a rooster-headed figure on the right with a seemingly feathered groin.